Hello there and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back to talk more TNA wrestling and we're doing a review of this week's TNA Impact, the 21st of March, and a preview of the 28th of March. Started out with a bit of a highlight package, mostly featuring around what's happening with Sabin and Mustafa Ali and Nemeth and Moose. And that led into like the first match, which was a number one contendership match for the TNA title at Rebellion, which was a 6-man match. First entrant, Leon Slater, baby! Yes! Oh man, I was excited to see Leon. I saw that he was actually on the card. I can't remember who he's like up against. Like he's got a singles match coming up on another one of these tapings. And I thought, dude, that's his debut. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're finally getting to see this kid like on the shows like regularly and whatnot. That's cool. But here he is like tonight. I thought, what? I was surprised that he was like the first guy, but that's cool. Like, you know, like I can't wait to see this young kid, you know, like I saw him at Turning Point, or was it Final Resolution ? I'm forgetting the pay-per-views now. I think it was Final Res, wasn't it? Or was it Turning Point? One of the other, one of the two, the one that was in England. I know, I don't remember sometimes. Sorry, guys. But this was for, by the way, Mustafa Ali's, what he called it was Rebellion Referendum, and the winner getting a number one contender to the X Division title at Rebellion. But yeah, I don't know why they have like this little piece here for Leon before they have like this. I don't know. Whatever, that's fine. So Ali came down first and said, "Hey, I'm here to talk about this match." The match also had Chris Bay, Alan Angels, Jason Hotch, and Kevin Knight, who returned with a taped up arm, and Jake something. Now, I don't think that we saw this on the thing as I was doing the predictions. So, and I also already know who won, but like in context, whoever's going to win like a thing like this, like you have to look at it as being a babyface, so you're looking at it possibly being Slater, Bay, Knight, or something. I would have felt like Kevin Knight's a hot contender there for it. Maybe not quite yet, perhaps. So you would think that he would be on the road to challenging Mustafa Ali at some point down the road, fairly soon-ish. I don't know, again, how long Mr. Ali has... I don't know whether even he's contracted per se, or whether he's just like got a short-term contract, or he's there by handshake or by appearance or what. But again, it's obvious that he's not like right now. He's not staying long-term because he hasn't like isn't been said, or it hasn't been raised. It hasn't been confirmed or anything like that. But again, like, he could stay around. We could see him stay around. He could be like he's wanting to do a lot of indie stuff and stuff all around the world. But I haven't seen him in AEW. I don't know how much he's doing in New Japan. I don't know what he's really doing in AAA. Those are the more major promotions that he could be going to. Anywhere, there's a few other promotions, but they're really all related for the most part. Like Ring of Honor, that's really an AEW product for the most part. So I think like he's like settling in to a degree, And it does feel like he's part of the landscape now in TNA to a degree. Like he's only been there a very short time, or as it is. But dude, if he sticks for a year, 2 years, 3 years, he could be absolutely the face of the new era of TNA's X Division. You know, like if he leaves in like a year or something, then it would have been a nice little run for him. And he would have done some amazing things in that run. I'm 100% sure he will do more than just do this if he's there for a year or even for 6 months, whatever it is. But like looking at it from the perspective of he's here, he's a big star. Yes, he's somewhat older, but I still think he's got a somewhat lengthy career left ahead of him. He's probably got about 10 years left on his career easily. So you can't discount him in saying that he's, no potential to stay. Like if TNA treats him well and they keep doing good stuff with him like this, like I'm sure that he's like, dude, like they're treating me well and I'm getting paid well and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Like, why not? Like, and I can still fulfill some indie dates. Like, and I can still go to New Japan. Like, maybe I'm not on the quote-unquote biggest stage per se, but I'm actually getting, like, time to actually do things. Like, that's the biggest thing that, like, yes, you could do that somewhat on New Japan, but you'd be on a much smaller stage, especially in the US. And you'd have to be very dedicated to doing stuff in Japan. For the most part, you couldn't really do as much indie stuff as what you can do in the US. The US is just a hotbed for wrestling, like, overall. So, like, and that's due to its size in many ways. But again, it's just one of those things when you're looking at, like, contenderships and things like this. Like, I do think that Kevin Knight could be the guy to take this title from him. Ultimately, Jake Something won this match. I would, like, I've said this a few times, I like Jake Something quite a bit, but I don't think, like, I like the whole, there is no limits to the X Division. That's cool and that's fine. I like that. That's fine. But I just don't think, he hasn't really changed his style to fit the X Division, really. And that's what I want to see. Like, if he's going to be an X Division guy, he's really got to bring it as an X Division, like, style of wrestler. He can't just be, I am big. That's part of what you have to do. You have to fit your big and powerful style into this. Like, okay, well, how can I fit that into being, like, an X Division, like, explosive, fast? Like, he does do some stuff more explosive and fast, but again, like, the X Division is such a hard division to get right, and for the people that are in it, like, I think, like, if he's in it for a little while and he moves on to the heavyweight, I keep calling it the heavyweight division, but it's not the heavyweight division, but the world title division, effectively, then that's where I think he belongs. I think he belongs in the world title picture, or perhaps the digital media title space. It's tough because, like, the digital media title is really a weird sort of title for somebody like him to go for at this point in his career. But effectively, like, again, I always call the digital media title, like, today's answer to the TV title. Like, that's what it sort of is. It's a, fairly mid-card title that, really has a lot of reach. And, like, they do a lot of stuff on their digital platform to really, engage with the, the audience and whatnot. But again, like, this 6-man was, like, this match was fire. Like, obviously, like, the crowd was right into this as well. I was pulling for Kevin Knight pretty much the whole way. I really want to see him dethrone Ali, I think. And Ali, realistically, again, like, if you look at his defense against Jake Something, coming up at Rebellion, I don't see Jake winning, despite his really strong showing here and whatnot, and the strong showing he's shown in TNA for the last like few months that he's been there. Like he promised to win the X Division title, but I don't really see him winning the X Division title. He's like, again, his style doesn't really fit for what the X Division should be, in my opinion. Yes, you can have bigger guys being in the X Division. I don't even think, like, when Abyss won it, that his title run was very, like, good for the X Division, because he didn't really fit within the X Division as far as his style. And yes, you can bring other styles, but it needs to fit. It needs to be no limits. It needs to, follow through with that. And yes, you can have power, but it still needs to fit somewhere within that. I think Samoa Joe got what he was doing in the X Division, like having that power and having that, those strikes and things like that he did, to fit. Like, it really worked. He upped his game. He, tore it down when he was doing this stuff. Like, not to say that, he's not tearing it up, but you really need to push yourself to being in that style. Like, okay, how can I make myself into this style while still being this, but yeah, like I was saying, like, I think Ali's run has really just started, and it's not ready to be over quite yet. So I just don't see that, despite everything, that Jake will win this. Plus, again, like, I feel like I keep saying that he doesn't fit the division, but also I don't want to say it's beneath him, but I feel like it's a bit beneath him, to be honest. Like, he should be, again, finding himself in that heavyweight space, being, like, going up against Moose, because, again, hey, what's that? He's a heel, as the world champion. Yes, there's a heel X Division champion, but still, like, there's a heel digital media champion too. So, I don't know, but still, it's crazy, some of the things going on right now in TNA. But that's how it is, and that's what I enjoy too. But got the highlight here for Jake picking up the pin. Mustafa Ali was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed throughout this whole match, with Jake being quote-unquote allowed. That he said there must be limits in a division where there's no limits. I liked some of that back and forth. It sort of already telegraphed to you who was probably winning this in some way, because that was the crux of the whole, like, story going through this match, sort of thing. And we've got the graphic here for Mustafa Ali versus Jake something. So certainly, like, I'm here for it. I won't mind seeing it. Like I say, I won't say anything bad about the guy. Like, I like the guy, but I just think that this isn't the best way to use him. Like, or if you're going to use him this way, again, you've got, like, the other guys that were in this match really carried this match. Like, as far as the work. If you're going to, like, pitch somebody like him, like Jake something, as being, part of this division, he really needs to be able to pitch himself in the same vein of the division that he's in. So you really need to get him to work on being and doing more things. Like, so it's really tough, but yeah. Dirty Dango had a promo blaming Prudius and Bravo for his lack of success. Like, dude, I think you did pretty well, and then Prudius wanders off. Basically, I think he's, like, gone from TNA at this point. I kind of liked some of the stuff he did, like, but I like, he barely had matches. Like, and he's, like, gotten into that space of being like, well, I'm basically retired now, and that. But it was nice to see him, and he brought something to, you know, the team that he was in with Bravo and that. I don't know what's going to happen with them. It looks like Dango wants to quote unquote go out on his own to a degree. I don't know how well that's going to go because, like, maybe he could do something. I don't know, but again, it's tough to say because like every division right now is run by heels. So for him to be at the top of the division or even near the top of the division, like, would be really, really tough. But anyway, Gia Miller went to have an interview with Rich Swann to explain why he betrayed Joe Hendry. I'm pretty sure everyone knows why he did it, but still, like, you always like that explanation to come from the horse's mouth, per se. And they said, hey, you're not gonna find out until everyone else finds out next week on Access TV. So tune in next week. Dina came out to the ring to cut a bit of a promo and said, hey, everything was, you know, my fault. I made the wrong decisions. So you know what? I'm not going to make any more decisions. I'm not going to make these decisions. I'm going to let the audience, you, the audience, decide what I do from now on out. But he was soon interrupted by the grizzled young veterans who told him to leg it. But he said, you know, I just made a promise to this audience that I'd let them decide what I do. And then he said, should I stay or should I go, effectively? And the audience said, stay. And then he got beaten up by the grizzled young vets. But the Time Splitters came down to, you know, have their tag team match with the GYV. Now, we were talking about Kushida and the GYV, the Time Splitters here, in their match. Like, it was a rematch from a match, what was it, like 2020, so like 4 years ago. I'm pretty sure the GYV won that match, if my recollection is like pretty good. But I don't know. I never really watched much NXT. But from what I heard, they won. So basically, this was like, well, the Time Splitters are going to get their win back. Like, that was like the idea. There was a bit of the story of, can these guys trust each other? Do these guys trust each other? Are they really on exactly the same page? Blah, blah, blah. All of that sort of stuff throughout this match with Kushida and Shelley. But ultimately, they did pick up the win. And it still looks like things aren't 100% between them. But, you know, it looks like things are better. Like, there was a lot of discussion whether, you know, Shelley would turn his back on Kushida and whatnot. But he didn't in this match. He backed up his partner. And maybe, you know, like, he feels like, well, Kushida was actually there for me, and maybe, like, he did make the wrong decision, I think, but he at least was there for me. So, again, that's kind of why they were doing this match, because they were, you know, kind of like, well, you know, we still kind of want to work together instead of, like, me working with Sabin, because we kind of don't trust each other wholly, completely at this point, whatever, because he wasn't there for me, even though I said for him to piss off or whatever, and do his own thing. But, yeah. Highlight here of the Time Splitters turning the tables on the GYV. Tom Hannafin had a sit-down interview with Hammerstone. Hammerstone talking about his rivalry with Josh Alexander. It seems like it's coming to a head. They're going to have a third match, obviously, at some point, which is actually their fourth match. But again, it's probably not a match that was ever really seen. It was, I think, a fairly indie show, and it just ended by, like, double count-out or whatever it was, I think. or time limit draw or something like that. I can't really remember. But he said, like, hey, you know, like, I was actually here, I can't remember when it was, back in like 2012, 2018. I had to double check here. This is, I've just paused it there. That's his actual debut match. It was on Explosion. It doesn't say the exact date, but I'm sure like you can, like I can find you or I could find it by Google searching that up, or even just like looking at TNA Plus and checking that that match out when he debuted. But yeah, you know, he says like a bunch of stuff about like how he was talked about being a big fish in a small pond, and now he's like here to show he's the best, and he's going to take the names and take the headgear and take the teeth and take whatever he wants, because that's how he rolls effectively. Like, yeah, lots of good stuff. Like, I can't complain. Like, want to see more. Like, at some point, like, I'd just rather see him wrestle other people, like, a bit. But it's tough since, like, Rebellion's so close, even though it's a month away, but still, that's pretty short, honestly. But it's clear that they're going to have some sort of third match at that point. What would it be? Like, honestly, I want to see some old school TNA like stipulation, that or like them come up with like a very unique like stipulation that would make sense for these guys. I don't want to just see them wrestle a regular like match. Obviously, that's not going to work. But again, I don't want to see them like doing something that's been done to death, like, or even a match that's a real staple of like other wrestling companies, that even though they're not that big a staple, but still like they are in a sense. So like I'd rather see something that's a bit more unique, something that feels TNA or whatever. It's tough to figure out what that would be that doesn't clash with a lot of the other matches or wouldn't outshine the other matches in some way or regard or whatever. So we'll have to wait and see a bit more from these two as it boils along and cooks. Crazy Steve versus PCO, and I thought to myself, who the heck is winning this one? I still feel like Steve's early in his run, and I felt like this is a TV match, so I didn't really feel like, PCO's really gonna win this, probably, because, like, that's a pretty big rarity, honestly, that people win titles on TV. And again, you're just, like, looking at the landscape of things. Like, if PCO was to win it, like, for example, like, what would he do with it? Like, like, it's tough to say what Steve's specifically doing with it, but honestly, it's, like, at least nice for him to have gotten something, and there's a direction behind what he's doing, and he's doing some really good work and all of that stuff. So that is what happened here mostly, but realistically this was all because Khan got involved in this match, signaling that the PCO versus Khan rivalry is not over. And, well, we really don't know where it's heading next, but we will have to wait and see. Highlights here of Khan backdropping PCO onto the chairs, or the backs of the chairs, which look like it hurt quite a bit. So I feel like maybe chairs will be involved. Like, chairs have kind of been involved throughout the match, or throughout their rivalries, so, like, you could see that there'd be more chair shenanigans, like, but I don't know, because it's like, well, what, like, remember like TLC, like what can you do with just chairs? I don't know. Again, like they've already got a Full Metal Mayhem match, which we'll talk more about in just a sec coming up. So Monsters Ball is probably the only other thing that you could really think for these two. And ultimately in that, I feel like Khan has to win. Khan has to win. If Khan doesn't win, like he might as well leave TNA and never come back. Because like what's he gonna do after that? He's just like no point in continuing, really. For a PCO, like it's like, dude, like as politely as possible, it's time to start thinking about retiring. Like, so it's time to start putting those other guys over because you can't do this forever. You know, like I love PCO, but the thing is, like everyone has to do this. Everyone has to go through this process and go, okay, yeah, it's time for me to, you know, hang up the boots. But he's in a program with someone, and it seems like that's where they're kind of going, at least hopefully. But still, we'll wait and see. I feel like, you know, Monsters Ball feels good. That feels right for them. They're both monsters, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, DK had a bit of a promo about Spitfire and challenging him for the tag titles, but MK Ultra interrupted and said, hey, we should get those tag title shots. And then DK said to the MK Ultra, hey, well, we should get a shot. No, and then they said, oh, no, we should get a shot. But, well, we'll decide who gets a shot by having a match next week on TNA Impact. So, like, there's a few things here that we're already talking about that are going to be happening next week, but that's going to also be covered in the next little bit down here in just a bit. So we'll be talking more about this match even more as we go along for next week. I really feel like they're almost setting up for a triple threat style match, so I feel like that's going to have no real winner. But anyway, we'll continue to wait and see. Eric Young came out to call out Kazarian. You can see the highlight here. And he challenged him to a Full Metal Mayhem match at Rebellion. So, like, I can't remember when the last Full Metal Mayhem match was. Like, it wasn't too long ago, honestly, but I just don't remember how long ago it was, because I'm terrible with remembering things, apparently. I've been told this. But still, like, it's one of those things that it's tough to, like, keep track of everything, because there's just so much going on, guys. My God. Even in TNA, but, like, with me personally as well, so, like, not too much right now because I'm shooting this, but still, like, this is a lot of stuff that I gotta do. It's just one of the more things that I gotta do to keep the lights going, or try to keep the lights going, and whatnot. But anyway, by the way, if you want to help me keep the lights on, subscribe, like, share with your friends. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm pretty hyped to see that. They did put up the graphic. We'll probably see it down the road here in just a bit. Ash Valiance had a third match. She was facing a jobber and she won. That was obvious. Like, but at the end of the match, this is where things actually got interesting. Well, actually, it was a little bit more of an interesting match than just that, because there was a little bit of offense from her opponent, but not very much. But still, whatever. The Ash by Elegance decided to go up to the top of the ropes to go and hit another rarefied air, which is her swan basically maneuver, onto her opponent. But Zaya Brookside came out and said, hey, no, don't you do that. You go now. And Ash by Elegance wandered away. So it's clear now that they are going to build to something between those two. I really think Ash needs to win that match, honestly. Like, Zaya is a nice young wrestler who's got a lot of time underneath her before she's, like, going to be in that picture really heavily. Like, she could be in it, like, she already actually was in that, you know, title picture. But, like, again, like, she could get back to that title at any point in the next year or 2 years or whatever. It doesn't really matter for her to like do something else or be somewhere else in this card, or just find something else to work with, honestly. But for Ash, I feel like she needs to be built up quite a bit, because I feel like she's one of the very few other heels that's actually on the damn roster that could challenge Jordan Grace, like, at Rebellion. So, like, it's tough because, again, like, you'd have to wrap up the whole thing with Xia before that, which I feel like it's gonna wrap up about Rebellion. So you've really got to find another opponent for Jordan Grace, which they did say, hey, we're going to find another opponent for Jordan Grace next week, blah, 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 which we'll go through a little bit more as we go along, but still, yeah. You can see the highlight here of Xia Brookside coming down to Steel Sparks assistance for the Swanton by Ash by Elegance. The Most Wanted Man! Nick Nemeth had a promo that basically was interrupted by the system, and they said, hey, the one thing that you've basically never really been able to do is beat the system. And then the system left, and that was basically all that was there. So, you know, like, I still don't think it's the right time quite yet for Nick Nemeth to win that title. I think if he wins that title at some point during this year, probably at Slammiversary or Bound for Glory, that's cool and that's fine, and that's, you know, where I feel like it could and should happen. But Rebellion is just a bit too short. I feel like their feud should build up and build up and build up and then culminate. It shouldn't really, you know, it's just really started. It's just started to, you know, percolate and started to happen. This is the opening acts, so to speak, of this story. So I don't really feel like he's going to win it. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people might want him to win it, but I feel like there's also a lot of people that don't want him to win it. I'm not one who doesn't want him to win it. I just think that now isn't the right time to win it. It isn't in the story. It doesn't really make sense. It hasn't really been built to. Yes, it's been built to a little bit, and they're going to continue to build to it, but still, I feel like it hasn't got enough build. It hasn't got enough consequences. The hero needs to lose first before he can win. That's where I'm at with that. We've got a few of the highlights for next week. I will talk about them just after we talk about this main event match between Jordan Grace and Tasha Steelz. I said that Jordan Grace was winning this. There's just like a history that Tasha Steelz has basically never beaten Jordan Grace one-on-one, and there's no reason to think that she was going to win this match. Like, no real reason. But they had a decently good match, even saying that Jordan predictably did win. You know, and it main evented the show. Like, when you get something that, you know, even a rivalry that, you know, people have seen thousands of times, I don't think the fans were that sick of it because they probably hadn't seen it like for a few years. So it's like, well, that's all right. We'll see it again. And this is probably like the nail in the coffin sort of it. I know they're having a tag team match in a couple of weeks or something, but that's not really going to amount to much really that goes forward. So that's fine. I don't really worry about that. That doesn't really count in my opinion. But yeah, like, you got the highlight here of Grace retaining the title, and then Impact went off the air. But yeah, this match really revolved around them countering each other's moves because, again, they knew each other very well, which, you know, added another interesting dynamic to the match. But somehow Grace got the Juggernaut driver to win the match after many counters in the match. But yeah. And we have to start thinking about Rebellion because, as I said, they didn't actually put the graphic up here, but I guess we'll find it later on and be still talking about it at some point soon with Eric Young versus Kaz. So, but for next week, actually, it does say. Oh no, it doesn't say it. It says Mustafa Ali and Jake for the X title, but it was announced after this at some point. There's next week an 8-4-1 match to determine the number one contender for the Knockouts title, which is odd. Like, I feel like almost everyone's that's in the tag team is in the in MK Ultra and in Spitfire and in Decay. So it's like that's almost all the women that are in your division. Like, there is literally a couple more, but I don't think you've got 8 more other wrestlers in your division. Like maybe they've got a few indie guys that are going to be in there. I don't know. That just seems like that's a team that's obviously not going to win. I don't know. You've got to kind of slither some indie people in there, but if Harley Hudson's in there, like at least that's somebody that has a name that's kind of in the Impact Zone, kind of, and people kind of know who she is and are kind of waiting for her debut. So I wouldn't mind seeing her in this match if she's going to be. I don't know who's in it. It hasn't been announced. So wait and see more about that. AJ Francis, like I was about to say, who's challenging? That's really tough. Like, are you going to do another, 3-way match with Grace and Ash by Elegance and Zaya? Like, to me, that makes not a whole lot of sense. Like, you could do that, I guess. Like, that could be, somewhat there, but I don't know. Or you could have just Ash win and, then go on, and then Zaya's, comes out, after it or whatever, or something, and gets involved with Ash or something, so you keep that story going. But the only other person that I can, push my finger onto thinking that I kind of want to see is Kylan King. Because, she's been out of action for a while. She's still injured, so I don't think she's coming back yet. But I wouldn't mind seeing her come back. I'd love to see her come back, honestly. But we'll have to wait and see more on this one. Because, again, it's so tough to figure out anyone that's in that division that feels besides, Alicia Edwards, I guess. That's the only other real person that I could think of that has any real reason to do it. That would be kind of interesting, but, I don't see it, per se. But anyway, AJ Francis and Rich Swann will explain their actions. We kind of know what's going on there. But, again, nice to hear it out of the horse's mouth. A lot more will be happening, but Josh Alexander will be in action. Against whom? I don't know. Probably some fairly middle jobber or some sort. It feels like next week doesn't really have a lot, listed here, but obviously there's a lot more there. But these are probably the more featured, some of the more featured things, I guess, for the most part. I really do wish, though, that they would, probably, push a little bit more of the details on these things, or put it in the packages a little bit more and that sort of thing. So you get a better sense of what you're tuning into. And yeah, that really helps with viewership as well. If people know, oh, this is happening, well, shit, we might tune in to see that. Even if we know the result, we might still tune in to see it just to see the match, or just to see someone cut their promo because, hey, We want to see that. I was happy to see Leon Slater. Like, how many people besides the people that were like there and saw him, like, got that? Like, it was like, yes, you could see that he was in it, and you could see that he didn't win it, but like to actually see him like in that match, like, and some of the stuff that he did, like leapfrogging and whatnot around with Kevin Knight, like some of that stuff was really great, like and whatnot. So again, like just actually being able to see like people actually working in that ring is one of those things that you shouldn't take for granted. Again, like we remember the COVID times, so just like keep that in mind that it's a privilege to see it live. And even on TV, it's still like that thing that you should be tuning into to be like, man, like they are really, like they're always doing good work no matter when it is. And they're always setting things up. And again, they're always using as many people as what they can. They're using basically their entire roster every single week for the most part. Or if not, hey, well, they're on next week. Like Josh Alexander wasn't on this show, but he's on next week. And, a few people weren't on last week, but they'll be on next week, so again. And we know that Slamovich and MK Ultra and, DK are going to go at it in a tag match for seeing who's going to face Spitfire, in a tag team title rematch. But again, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a triple threat, so yeah, that's there. But there's certainly more to come and more to see, and we'll have to wait and see in that for now. So yeah, it is a little bit annoying, but again, like this 8-4-1 match, knockouts only, has me intrigued. If they could bring back a few stars, perhaps, like even for one night only, that'd be kind of nice. I wouldn't mind seeing Taylor Wilde one more time. I wouldn't even mind seeing her for a few more times, but like just like things like that. I know she's doing other things and whatnot and all this other stuff, but still, like that sort of thing. We know that she can still wrestle, so it's like, well, come on, like come back, do some stuff, and then wrap things up or figure things out, or let's see where we're at. But anyway, guys, that is it for this one here for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you will join me again in another one.